And we're back with more of Pop Culture Cosmos. This is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. Once again, just thanking you so much for being part of the show. Again, reminder, we are available on the Podcast Radio Network every Monday night. Just want to go ahead and check us out there, or any one of the number of downloadable options, Mixcloud, ESO Network, Tangibound Network, Gonna Geek Network, Mixcloud, Stitcher, iTunes, Google Play, podcast.com. And if you do, we throw in a little bonus for you for download, because we know subscribing to us is a great way to catch the show. So we truly appreciate it. And we also want to thank the people who partner with us as far as making this show possible. So we want to shout out to Pogue Media, to Gamercast with J. Rob and Glenn, to Galaxy Far, Far Away, to Game Source, to Mario Party Wars, to Wine Women of Words, obviously one of our big helpers, Retro City Games, and the guy who is going to help us out right now talking about the Nintendo Switch. That's Rob McCallum from robmccallumfilms.com. How are you this morning, my friend?
Well, just waking up and recovering from the video game presentation that rocked or didn't rock the world Thursday evening.
Yeah. It's all over the place.
It is a very mixed kind of, chunk of information to dissect.
Well, who better to talk to about Nintendo and what they've got going on than the man who directed one of the quintessential films of this century as far as video game documentaries are concerned. That's Nintendo Quest. I'm supposed to paying you a compliment, man. You gotta take it in stride. But okay,
I don't think I can take film of the century so far for Nintendo Quest. I just don't think
one of the quintessential.
One of the quintessential. Okay, I'll take it.
Video game documentaries of the century is what I said, but that's okay. Nintendo Quest, you got to check it out.
The century is pretty short so far.
Well, it was kind of that's you could read into that what you want.
Right. Okay.
It was a box quote, but anyways, Nintendo Quest, you want to check it out, obviously always available on robmccallumfilms.com on how to get it. But talking about the Nintendo Switch, they just unveiled it this past Thursday. A lot of fanfare as far as going in. The presentation itself, it had its ups and it certainly had its downs. I'm going to say that first and foremost. But before I go into my thoughts on it, let's go with you, Rob. What did you think overall in regards to Nintendo Switch?
Okay, so there's a bunch of things to discuss here. Overall, I thought the presentation was pretty boring. Talk about like a third-rate announcement when we've seen almost rock concert-like demonstrations from Sony and Microsoft in the past years, whether it's at E3 or their own different events that have happened.
Do you think that was because obviously they when they debuted it from Japan and trying to use, obviously sometimes those segments when they're at E3 and whatnot, when they use translators, something does gets lost in a translation as far as maybe from a aspect of overall production standpoint. Should they have done different things, like maybe Reggie should have done his own presentation for the North American audience and maybe the European audience as well?
I mean, I'm not too concerned with trying to divide up Nintendo for them to cater their own audiences. It wouldn't be horrible. I mean, everybody, I think, in North America is quite familiar with Reggie and his brand. They've done a really good job at pushing Reggie as the kind of spokesperson. I don't think the translation issues and it being in Japan are really the problem. I think you could still approach a show like that that's a little over an hour long and still have a little bit of fanfare and excitement in it instead of just speaker waiting 5 seconds later for a translator to recap and this back and forth play. It was encouraging, I guess, to see Nintendo do something live, even though most of it was introductions and outros to these taped segments instead of just, streaming a Treehouse presentation or something of the ilk. But I don't know. There's too many examples out there right now for people to see something and get them excited about. And I think that is the theme through this whole announcement, whether it's the announcement itself or the content. people wanted to get excited, and we were all waiting for that one moment to get excited. And I don't think it ever arrived. And I still think there's a ton of information that we expected to hear that hasn't been delivered yet.
And I agree with you on that. They were pretty vague as far as the expected internet service that they're going to be doing, similar to PlayStation Plus and similar to Xbox Live, that they're going to be down the road charging consumers for. That's kind of that's obviously was a step in the right direction for them, because hopefully it will actually build a service that's
Well, that's the thing. Hopefully, it'll build a service and not just charge people money.
yeah, and that's what I'm hoping, because they've, as I've said on many occasions, their service has been substandard, and by a wide margin in the industry. I think the friend code, as far as way of connecting, is atrocious and archaic. I think their way they've dealt with the online multiplayer form has been archaic, I think, for lack of a better term. But I think hopefully that if they are going to provide a service that's more up to speed with their two competitors, or can find ways to make it even better, that's hopefully very good, especially if they're going to be charging later this fall in regards to that service is concerned. But let's get into the particulars. The unit itself is debuted it's going to be coming out on March 3rd, and at a robust price of $300 US dollars, as far as it's concerned. The major titles that are coming out, as far as, well, actually the titles within the release window, there's not many, which is another concerning point right now. But the ones that I have listed and that I could find that are coming in that launch window. They may not come out launch day, but I kind of included some that may be coming in the launch window. Let's go for Just Dance 2017, I Am Setsuna, Super Bomberman R, Has Been Heroes, 1-2 Switch, ARMS, and of course, the one that is going to hopefully move the console itself, which was a highlight for me, because I have never, even when I've played Zelda, I've never really gotten into the whole series like you and I have discussed previously, as far as your thoughts on it as well. But Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which to me looked like the best part of the presentation. So your thoughts on the actual price and availability as far as the initial entries are concerned?
I think the price point is fine. 300 for a new console isn't, all that crazy. I mean, that's what the Wii U launched at, I believe.
But we're talking about a machine that's underpowered compared to its competitors.
Well, that's a whole another discussion. And the Wii U was underpowered compared to its competitors too, and it still launched at a $300 price point. I know people are saying it should have been $249 or even $200, but I don't know. I think $300 is fair for a launch day system. I think you're going to see it discounted to $249 on Black Friday, and probably the second year for sure at holiday, or they'll put in a pack-in game like 1-2 Switch or something like that. So I just, people want it right away. This is the price that they're going to have to pay. This is no different than PlayStation 3 that launched at $500, right? Like, it was a big price for that console.
PlayStation 3 actually came out even higher. $700 was the ticket there.
Oh, okay. Well,
six and $700, I believe was the ticket there. And I agree with you on that end, but I still think $300 for initial price for nothing. You're not even getting a pack-in game with it, which differs.
Well, I mean, what did you get for your PS4? There was no pack-in, right? And it was what, $399?
Yeah, that's true. Good point there. But in this competitive marketplace, where you and I both know the week before or month before that PS4 and Xbox One may just go ahead and drop the price back down to $249, trying to take away more of its, as far as drawing power. Plus the fact that the accessories themselves are varied prices that are really on the higher end as well. And I noticed a lot of people online, a lot of gamers out there, including Nintendo hardcores, which are actually trying to pre-order the system, are all voicing their opinions strongly against the high prices of all the accessories.
I'm just glad that a lot of the accessories are available. We never really saw retail versions of extra Wii U gamepads, and I know that bothered a lot of people. So the one accessory that is for sale, and it's only $89, is an extra dock. So if you've got a cottage somewhere, or if you want to have it on another TV instead of just walking around, take it from maybe, you know, the TV in the living room to your bedroom or something like that. I really like the idea that you can have an extra dock. I thought that was really smart of them. The Joy-Cons, well, you know, look at the Xbox Pro controller, right? I mean, these things are really small. They're essential to playing, but you also have the Pro controller too that you can buy instead of extra Joy-Cons. I think it's going to depend on what the gamer wants and who it's catering to. I don't need an extra set of Joy-Cons, so I'm happy, but I will buy a Pro controller because that's how I prefer to game. Some people might want an extra set of Joy-Cons so that other people in the family can play. You know, I just think the important thing is that there is availability of this stuff out there.
Oh, and what about the launch titles? I know Douglas Hoyabu of Retro City Games, our good friend, and also one of our main sponsors behind Pop Culture Cosmos, was not exactly too thrilled as far as the launch lineup, which you and I both know launch lineups as a whole really have never been that great for pretty much any console launch,
Yeah.
as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, I know, and that's just it. Like, I can't remember any system that has launched with a ton of titles. It's usually within the first calendar year that you finally get, you know, probably 30 to 40 games, of which you might want 5 or 6, which, let's be honest, for Nintendo, that's higher than the average. Usually you're lucky if you get 4 titles for the Wii U in the past cycle, like 1 a quarter. And it was fine for me because, you know, I had the PS4 to play other games, and, you know, I just wanted first party Nintendo stuff, so that's the role that filled. Now we have third party support on Nintendo Switch. So you mentioned a game like I Am Setsuna, a game that came out in July for PlayStation that I really wanted to look at, from RPG Factory, a division of Square. That might be another reason for me to pick up the Switch, because there's a game I instantly want to play. I know it's going to be cheap. It'll probably be $30. I think it's 40 right now on PSN. It's an easy excuse for me to pick it up and play. Do I want to drop $300 to play a $40 game that I can buy right now and play right now? I don't know, but it's a nice excuse to play the system. I'm not a Zelda fan. I get why Breath of the Wild is going to be a pusher for it. I'm a little bit more on the fence about wanting to play it now instead of just saying no straight out. But it looks like one of those games that's going to take a lot of time, which for Zelda fans, you know, that's exactly what they want. They want a deep, immersive, explorative world, or trek through Hyrule. That's adventures that crop up out of nowhere, right? It's the narrative surprises that they'll get to have for the first time instead of being on a more linear quest that takes them to different places. What I think the interesting thing is that a lot of the titles that they're trying to push, whether it's in the release window or not, are really harkening back to the 64 staples that they had. So Breath of the Wild, you can really see the parallels to Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time. You can look at Super Mario Odyssey, which I'm sure we'll talk about soon, and look at Mario 64 and even subsequent Mario games and see how that's drawing upon that. And then you look at the gap between when the 64 came out and where we are now, you know, that's like 25 years or 20 years. That's a good nostalgic cycle to come back to that point. So I don't think it's by mistake that they're trying to go back to those titles that people have been telling them to kind of make games more like. I think it's kind of long overdue. And if you're a fan of Nintendo, this console will deliver everything that fans of Nintendo want.
And I couldn't agree with you more on that end, because you know, they obviously announced quite a bevy of titles that are now coming down the pike. And obviously Super Mario, as far as the open world aspect of it, as far as that's concerned, is really entrancing to me. That makes it a lot more interesting. And there's a ton of games coming down the pike, like I said, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which is a super bumped up version than what people have been playing already. Splatoon 2, the sequel to the surprise hit Splatoon. That's coming out in the summer of this year, hopefully, if all goes well. You know, we talked about Super Mario Odyssey. There's Xenoblade Chronicles 2. That's also coming out hopefully within the near future. Fire Emblem Warriors, Shin Megami Tensei.
I mean, if you look at all those titles, right? Like, if you're a DS fan or a 3DS, whatever you want to call it, like basically Nintendo's handheld crowd, you're getting a lot of the staple games that you like released on the Switch. You're getting all your fun RPGs, and you're still getting the Nintendo home console staples all in one. This is exactly what I hope the Switch was going to do.
And do you think that's what they're trying to lead that handheld audience away from the handheld, or as far as and making that Switch the hybrid that they were, that many were hoping that it was going to happen?
Yeah, I think it's exactly what it is, and it's just going to be a matter of time to see how well it does. I think, when people are dropping, what was it, the new 3DS XL 9.0 or whatever it was called, wasn't that retailing for $200?
Yeah.
And now you have basically for an extra $100, which we know the cost of the dock is $90, you get to have all these home console titles as well. So if you're basically like a 3DS purist, this is a bump up. This is all the games you love with a higher resolution screen that you can take everywhere, but now you can play it on your TV. I think a lot of people are coming at it from the other way, where we're console fans, like sit down on the couch and play stuff. We feel like, well, we're being forced to kind of play these games that are traditionally handheld, and that's not a function that I like. But if you look at it from the other point of view, it starts to make a lot more sense. And hey, the handhelds for Nintendo have always been the bread and butter for the last decade.
And they have, and if they take that kind of spirited technology that they've utilized within the handhelds, but although that's been their bread and butter since the death of the Wii, but if they can find that magic, that happy medium between the Wii and the 3DS, that could be the Switch. And I agree with you on that sense. I just think it's going to get off to a little bit of a bumpy start because of the higher than expected price tag is concerned. But your thoughts as far as where you think the Switch should go and what pitfalls it should avoid that the Wii U unfortunately fell into.
The online service is going to be crucial to all this. I think that is going to be the deal breaker. I don't know what the price is right now. I think it's $40 a year. I think I heard that was the number kind of thrown out to $39.95. I know people are upset that you get a free game every month, but you only get it for the duration of that month.
Yeah, that was something that was kind of disappointing as well to the individuals.
And to be honest, like, okay, you've made a lot of money on the NES Classic. Just let us have these ROMs, on our card. And, you've already kind of shortened us a little bit with the storage capacity issues. Let us keep it in the library or something like that. I think that's one thing. But if they can make the online work, then I think you can see Nintendo really emerge in a multiplayer direction with titles like ARMS, Mario Kart 8, once Smash Brothers drops, and you have Bomberman now, which is, a lot of people throw stones maybe at Bomberman because there seems to be at least one or two Bomberman entries on every platform, every generation, but it is still one of the most compelling and fun multiplayers of all time. And Tetris, right? So you've got like 5 or 6 key multiplayer titles. If you get your online service set up, you can do a lot of stuff with that.
And that's, I think, like you said, is a key that they go ahead and they develop that aspect of the experience, because I think that's what's intimidated a lot of individuals, a lot of casual players, and a lot of the casual audience is that online system or lack thereof that they've had over the past few years. So I am optimistic as far as once the price drops that a lot of people will embrace the Switch is concerned. Do you share those thoughts? With that, like you said, once there might be Black Friday specials or there might be bundles that might be attractive to audiences out there?
I think ultimately people are gonna embrace the Switch, or you're gonna see a new wave of adopters when Mario Odyssey comes out. That a Mario title is always a system mover. It's really disappointed that it's not going to be available at launch. Can you imagine? The only thing that the Nintendo had to do to make this an impressive presentation was say Breath of the Wild March 3rd, and oh yeah, Super Mario Odyssey March 8th or something like that, like the week later.
Yeah, those two both coming out at the same time at launch. That would have knocked it out of the park, I think, for a lot of individuals, and I think a lot of the casual audience as well, because they can relate to Super Mario, they can relate to Zelda, but there's not really many other titles that the large casual audience can relate to right now that they may be as familiar with. For hardcore Nintendo audience, it's a no-brainer, and a lot of people are pre-ordering the unit now as we speak. But I noticed even they have shied away at some of the price tags that Nintendo is offering at the present time. So I'm hoping that maybe Nintendo can find a happy medium to maybe get that hardcore base even in further, because they cannot live, as you and I both seen with the Wii U, they cannot live by that hardcore fan base alone. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I mean, I understand why they're staggering the release of Zelda and Mario. They've never kind of dropped them within the same month. They need something to push the launch, and they need something to push holiday sales. So it makes sense on paper. But I think Nintendo realizes, and I think most gamers would agree, that they're not number one anymore. They have a huge fan base that is rooting for them to be what they used to be. And I think it's okay for them to kind of maybe break tradition and push these kind of things. So maybe if Mario were to come out in March, we know it's not, but then you have Smash Brothers and a Pokemon title that come out at Christmas. I mean, nobody's going to complain if within the cycle of a console you have 3 Mario games or 2 Mario games or 2 Zelda games. Like, this is what people want, and
Even
this is
if
what you're great at doing. So give us that.
even if it had been a bumped up version of Pokemon Go,
Yeah, a
you know,
Super Mario Run like slash Pokemon Go Pack-In would have been great.
yeah, or something like Super Smash, as far as they're doing a bumped up version of Mario Kart 8. Why not do
Or Pokken Tekken, you
yeah.
know,
And one thing I did like that is that they're going to be able, if 8 people have the base units and whatnot, they can all play together as far as that.
locally. Yeah.
Yeah, and that I think is really a cool concept, and I think that really it might get people down the road once the price becomes more attractive to get people involved. So I think that they were looking long term for that, and I think that was a smart move by Nintendo. And I think you guys out there and gals out there that really support Nintendo are going to try and do what they can to support it early. But I think it's all up to the support. Again, we've had this promise before with the Wii U, where there was thought that they may have that third party support of actual original titles coming same time, day and date with their PS4, PC, and Xbox One brethren, to be released. So I'm hoping for that to happen, that Switch will have it, because yes, it does not meet the power standards of the PS4 and the Xbox One, especially with Scorpio on the horizon and all that. But it doesn't really have to, as long as it's a great experience. The Wii was never matched up with the PS3 and the Xbox 360, and we saw for a time how well it shaped the world.
It's never been about tech specs for me, and I understand why they didn't, make that as part of the key presentation, because they just don't need to be crapped on for that again. The only thing I'm curious is, I know the tablet is 720 native, and it's 1080 once it's in the dock. I mean, it has to be just upscaling. It can't be a native 1080 with the dock, because the content has to be running at 720, unless it's native 1080 software and it's downscaling to 720 on the dock. That would be interesting to discover. That's really all I care about. I'm surprised that, again, another thing they could have done is made it 4K compatible. We're seeing that on tablets already, and it kind of future-proofs the nature of the system. But hey, because it is just a tablet, that seems pretty easy, like a smartphone, to get another one in a couple of years and swap it out for something else, like the way that new 3DSs came out. If you can save all your data online through this magical Nintendo cloud service or whatever it is, and then basically get a new device, then why couldn't you upgrade all that stuff a little bit easier, since we're essentially talking about tablet production now?
Indeed. Now, storage was again a topic of conversation, because there's not much in the way of internal storage on this unit. But with the flash card, not the flash card, I'm sorry, the SD card type, as far as storage is concerned, I'm hoping that they will allow. Did they say that they would allow storage cards that are not proprietary based?
Yeah, I guess it'll play with a micro SDX card up to 256 gigabytes. It comes with 32 gigs standard, but I believe I read somewhere that it will support up to 256 through micro SDX.
Oh, that's encouraging indeed. And you mentioned some of the things that you liked and you were encouraged, and so did I. But what are some of the things that you wanted to hear more about? Because, like you said, the presentation overall was pretty substandard.
I guess, just maybe it'll be like an E3 thing. Just like, what is the rollout? What is the plan for this? Like, we know Mario's coming at holiday. It's the only holiday title we know of, and it was nice of them, I guess, to tell us that at least it's coming out this year. And we have an idea what some of those launch window games are, but just to have an idea for what the lifespan of the Switch is going to be like year one, year two, and how that's going to vary. I mean, that's definitely more of an E3 thing, but they could have used E3 to kind of build upon what they did at this announcement, in the same way that this announcement built upon the trailer that released in October.
Yes, I couldn't agree with you more on that. So that's our thoughts on the Nintendo Switch. If you have thoughts on Nintendo Switch you want us to let people know out on the air, or if you just want to say hey and talk to us, go ahead. You can send us a message on Facebook at Pop Culture Cosmos, also on Twitter at Pop Culture Cosmo, or send us an email, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Rob, I know you still got a lot of things coming down the pike, especially with robmccallumfilms.com. Just I'm always eager and anticipating a lot of good stuff coming from you. So really, what's coming down the pike for Rob McCallum Films?
2017, and hopefully you'll get some promos that remind all our listeners about this soon. 2017 is a huge year for Rob McCallum Films and Pyre Productions, the official handle of all the work that I do. We've got the definitive history of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. Power of Grayskull will drop later this year. We've got Box Art, a gaming docu-series where you get 6 episodes hearing from probably, I think, a dozen artists or so that were responsible for iconic retro gaming art, all the way from Atari through the NES and even current iteration of stuff, so you can understand what the story is behind the covers of the games that we love and really identify who the people are responsible for those iconic images that have defined gaming into now. And of course, one of the titles that I'm looking forward to most is the heavy metal biopic on Kitty, called Kitty Origins and Evolutions, that chronicles the 20-year history of the heavy metal all-female act from my hometown of London, Ontario, Canada. It is a nice up and down roller coaster ride of what it takes to survive in rock and roll, especially being a woman in an industry that is heavily biased towards a boys-only club.
Now, did you mention Missing Mom, right?
Not yet. I haven't mentioned that yet. We're still
because,
working on a release date for that.
well, that's still, won so many awards. So I'm expecting always that you're telling me with that film, because again, it has been so many award festivals. It's won so many awards. I keep telling me, I keep asking, okay, where is it now playing? What film festival is it playing? So I apologize, because there's been so many for you as far as it's concerned.
No, it's good. We're very fortunate with that title. Missing Mom has won, I believe, 7 or 8 different awards: Best Documentary, Best Director, Best Foreign Documentary. Places like Copenhagen, New Zealand, Florida, Canada, just a little bit all over the place, and it's great. We're working with our distributor right now to find a broadcaster that is interested in picking up, and it's just a matter of making those numbers work. The legal stuff always kind of takes the longest, but we've got the pedigree behind us with awards from all over the world. It is a universal global film, and once we get to sign those contracts on the dotted line, it would be nice to kind of say, people, this is where you can go to check it out and get your copy.
Oh, that's awesome indeed. Well, that's Rob McCallum from RobMcCallumFilms.com. Also, as well, Gamercast with J. Rob and Glenn. And I tell you right now, he has shared his thoughts again on Nintendo Switch. Initial thoughts. So we're hoping, as far as the unit comes out, we're hoping a lot of great things from it as well. Truly appreciate it. And like I said, if you have any comments, just send us an email, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Rob, I'd like to thank you again for, as always, stopping by. You are a major, major part of the Pop Culture Cosmos. Truly appreciate you talking to us today regarding the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, happy to be here and share my thoughts.
Awesome, awesome indeed. And thanks again for being part of the Pop Culture Cosmos. We'll see you soon.